Welcome back to the Forged in the Barrens card valuation stream by the Grinning Goat. I'm ADWCTA.
This is Merps. We're back with neutrals. Big, good neutrals. Big, good.
Big good. So if you don't know and you didn't watch the first video in the series, we have a new scoring system. It took way too much time, more than 1,000 hours to do the algorithm, so we're not doing it anymore. And so we are now on a tier list system, going from A, B, C, D, F, S at the very top. And we are doing the top 4 cards right now in Forged in the Barrens. There is one S tier card in neutrals, only neutrals right now. We'll do classes one by one. So there's only one S tier card. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it bigger. There's only one S tier card, period, in all of Forged in the Barrens. Class cards or no class card. The best card, legendary or no legendary, the best card in all of Forged in the Barrens is a neutral. Not just a neutral. It's like a neutral rare card. It's not even an epic. Definitely not a legendary. And then we have 2 A tier neutral cards. And A tier is around where Twin Tyrant is. S tier is around where Runaway Blackwing is. We're not saying this upcoming card is as terrible as Runaway Blackwing, but it's closer to that than the Twin Tyrant. That's how good the card is. So, without further ado, presenting the number 1 card in Forged in the Barrens, according to the Grinning Goat.
It is Morshan Watch Post, which is a 3-mana. It's a rare 3-mana 3/5. It cannot attack, so it's trash. After your opponent plays a minion, summon a 2/2 grunt, and the grunt has nothing special about him. It's just a grunt. Sorry, grunt. You might be special in some ways, but you are not special for this review. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I think S, like we're talking about S, it's a low S. It's a very low S.
Yeah.
In fact, I would actually kind of consider it A+, but you got to be a little bit sensationalist these days. So for me, it was kind of like an A+. I'm like, fine.
By the way, there are no A+ either in Forged in the Barrens. So if you want to consider this an A+, it is still the best card in Forged in the Barrens.
Yeah. So remember, there is a very high bar for S, which is why I'm kind of reluctant for S. But let's just talk about why this card is broken. We talked about it on a previous Light Forge as well. Stuff doesn't have to attack. It just has to put pressure. Now, if it can attack, it automatically puts pressure. This is 5-head here. Stay with me, guys, all right? Jot down your notes. If it can attack, it automatically puts pressure. But if it just does something that you, as the opponent, doesn't want it to do, it also exerts pressure. Super, super complicated, right? Now, this is overstated. 5 health on turn 3 is a little bit too much. I don't know why they couldn't just make this 4 health. It still would have been really, really insane. And it just snowballs out of control by you and your opponent doing normal things. I talked about this on the podcast as well, where this is one of the only instances in Hearthstone history where we have a card that is this low in mana cost that can potentially snowball you to a win single-handedly, caveat, by you doing normal things. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, you can say, oh, but there's these cards, and like that can, this 2-mana card can win you the game. That 3-mana card can win you the game. This is like Vicious Fledgling, and part of the reason that why people hated Fledgling and why Blizzard banned it, because of the feel badness in that it can just single-handedly win the game by you doing very normal things. Watch Post is exactly the same, and it is just so punishing because if you do normal things, this thing gets way more value than it should get for a 3-drop.
Yeah, and Merps is talking about it if you drop it on 3. Let's say you don't drop it on 3. Let's say you drop it on turn 10 and you just happen to have the board. It's still getting like a 6-drop value. Like, it's still freaking insane, even in the late game, as long as you have the board, which you should have, like, I don't know, half the time at least. So, this is a 3-drop that works really well in the late game, and is just flat out game-winningly broken if you drop it on turn 3. A lot of people focus on like the canned attack part. I mean, I think everyone's kind of agreed this is an OP card, but I've read and listened to some of the reviews, and there are still some people who don't think this is the most amazing card ever, which it is. If you're even thinking of this as just like a normal premium card, you're off by like magnitudes of how crazy this card is. It needs to be removed, which means it effectively has taunt. Like, think of how annoying Tar Creeper is. Now, imagine if you couldn't play minions once your opponent played a Tar Creeper.
That's literally like the counter to Tar Creeper, by the way. You just play minions, ignore for a bit, and then you can do stuff.
Yeah.
But yes.
You can't do that here. Because if you play minions, your opponent gets 2/2s. I mean, you do that. You clearly do play minions. It's your only way out if you don't have a removal. Don't let it actually freeze you in place. Like, the wrong way to play against this card, unless you have a board clear that actually deals 5 damage. The wrong way to play against this card is, oh, my opponent dropped a watch post. I guess I can't play minions anymore. No. You lose the game right there if you don't play minions. If you play minions, you may have a 5% chance of winning the game. So, figure out your odds, right? Like, if you do have a combo or a board clear or a removal that's 4 or 5 mana that can take care of this guy, like maybe do nothing for a bit, just like use hero powers and whatever. But draw cards without using minions, play spells to remove your opponent's other stuff that they put out. But if you don't have those, and most of the time you won't, if this comes out on 3, then you play minions and you just let your opponent get the value. Like, sometimes your opponent plays a Basilisk and takes out your 3-drop and your 4-drop, you know? This will just do that all the time. And you can sometimes win games, even if your opponent's Basilisk takes out your 3-drop and 4-drops. That's not a 100% loss. It's a very likely loss, but it's not 100%. So, if you're playing against this card, take bad odds. Because doing nothing means you have no shot of winning. So, know your deck, know your outs. Starting on turn 3 now, you need to know your outs. This is a terrible, terrible card. This should not be printed as a class card. It should definitely not be printed as a neutral card. Super certainly not a neutral rare card. I think Blizzard will remove it from the arena within 1 week.
Wow.
I think that they are...
Don't predict stuff like that.
I think that they are on top of it enough nowadays, and they pay a little bit attention to the arena, and it is going to be such huge outrage once it actually hits arena, for the arena community at least. And they'll play, and then they'll just realize that the game is unplayable, and it will get taken out of arena. I can't see a way for this not to, because I also don't think this is like a problem in Constructed, so it's not like they're going to nerf the card.
This is one of those cards that checks off all the marks for getting banned from arena. And really the most important box that it checks is that it makes people feel bad, because it makes your decisions irrelevant. And it just makes people feel like they're having a much subpar experience because they don't get to play the game. Look at all of the other stuff that they've banned. It is like the most popular, or the most noteworthy bans have all been stuff that has made players feel really bad, right? MCT punish people for playing stuff. Blizzard wants you to play stuff. They really want you to play stuff. It punished you for playing stuff. Vicious Fledgling was banned because it made you feel bad, because you're just like, oh, after turn 3, because I didn't have that Frostbolt, because I didn't have that Eviscerate, I lost, and then I couldn't do anything no matter what. Like, after that turn, they attack phase, they got the Wind Fury, then they got the Stealth, and then it was just over at that point. Blizzard cares about the experience more so than actual mathematical balance. Now, this has that actual mathematical balance problem to the umptieth degree, but it really is going to make people angry. Not 100% of the time. You can at me later on and be like, oh, Merps, I had this watch post. They dealt with it right away. Or I dealt with a watch post right away. Sure, that happened. Like, guys, it's a 3-minute card. It's not it's not the world beater, but it's rated an S tier because for 3 mana, its ability to end the game with doing nothing, with just you dropping it there and being like, oh, look at all these 2/2s, like just burr, like 2/2 machine go burr. That is problematic, and I can see them banning it. I can totally see them banning it.
And yeah, like I'm reading chat right now. Some people are like, "Oh, it may not even be in the arena." They didn't say anything about it not being in the arena the way they did for Runaway Blackwing, but I could see that too. It's just so obvious, like of a thing that whatever thought process they went through for Blackwing, to the extent that this is less like blatantly in your face about it. Like Blackwing's like deal 9 damage to something, then also be able to attack and do whatever. Whereas this one's like, oh, your opponent's kind of in control. Yeah, it's a 3 mana 3/5, like kind of like whatever. But like if they just play a game, they'll know. Like, yeah. I mean, there's not much to say about it. Just don't play around it too hard is my only suggestion, because this will be in the meta. And I am very excited about the Barrens meta, and I'm very excited about the list of expansions that they put in, because it's going to be kind of ridiculous, but also kind of like do whatever, which is always great for like for people to explore the meta. But this card's going to ruin everything, so I'm just like waiting for it to get banned. Really, like the Barrens meta does not start until this card is banned. Like this next week. Hopefully not a week. Hopefully it just doesn't even exist in the arena. But it's not a meta. It's just gonna be crap. It's gonna be a Morsham watch post game.
Yeah. This is just so people are gonna complain about this so much, because even if let's say Blackwing was in the game, I think it would make people a little bit less angry, because hey, at least they got to play some of their cool 7 mana, 8 mana cards, right? Before they lost. It's all about the experience. Some people, it's if you lost, but I got to play that sweet grand finale, and then they punch me in the face. I don't think you'd feel good, but if you just polled the vast majority of people and did a survey, they'd feel better about it than if someone dropped Watch Post on 3. They had the grand finale in their hand along with all these elementals. Then they just lose by turn 6, and they're like, this game blows. This game absolutely blows. Like, the survey would do so much worse because they didn't even get to play their stuff. And I'm talking a lot about, less about how good the card is, because we literally don't have to talk about that, and more about this because it does affect the health and stability of Arena. Arena, if you guys didn't know, isn't doing the greatest right now, and we need people to play it. This being in the meta is a huge disincentive for people to stay in the arena or even check it out. Because I can tell you guys, the first time someone checks out Arena and their opponent plays this, they're going to be like, F this game, I'm out. I'm out.
And it's also something that you may not draft. You probably won't draft if you know nothing about the arena. Like, if you know nothing about the arena, this doesn't look like a good card. It can't attack. Like, it's a serious downside. And, like, really good arena players are, like, rating this card average, or in some cases below average. There's definitely more than one arena reviewers, like good arena players, that have reviewed this card and rated it below average. And, I mean, no chance that it is anything below a Yeti or even at a Yeti level. Like, literally 0% chance. It's
overstated, first of all.
Well, it like, can't attack, right? Like, people who would rate it low would focus on the fact that it can't attack, that, your opponent will eventually just eat it with a larger minion. It's
okay.
It's S tier. It's S tier. If it's not S tier, it's going to be A+ tier, which is effectively the same for Barrens because there are no A+ tier cards. I mean, no class cards that are A+ tier, no anything. This is just so far and above the other Forge in the Barrens cards. Like, not quite Runaway Blackwing level, but I think in the same tier.
Yes. Anyways, we should go on to the next card. We've harped on this one enough, but we want to talk about this one because this
is the meta. Yeah, this is the entire meta. Like, I really hope Blizzard gets on it soon because I want to play the arena, and the rest of the cards are pretty interesting, but this is going to ruin the whole entire thing from the get-go if it's in the game.
Okay, so next we have 3 A-tier cards. First up, is Venomous Scorpid. Venomous Scorpid is a 3-mana 1/3 beast common card. It's poisonous, and Battlecry, discover a spell. I don't know how much we need to say about this, but it's just one of those. Here is a perfectly, a very good statted minion. You know, you're missing one attack from Emperor Cobra, so you get a little bit less face damage. Whatever. It's those infinite attacks when it comes to minions, and then you get to discover a spell. That's amazing. It's later on in the game. It is a spell, which I know I'm like, spell, like, you know, the aliens meme. But spells are typically really, really freaking good, and you can tailor it with the new information that you've gathered, whether it is on turn 3 or it is on turn 6, 9, 10, whatever. You just get way too much for the cost. So it's an A tier.
Yeah. This card is ridiculous. I don't know what else to say about it. It may even be A+ tier. But we're putting it at A tier for now. Again, all A tier cards should not exist in neutral. There is actually a similar card to this in Hunter. That was a dragon. That was a 2/3 poisonous dragon, and it discovered you a dragon. And it was bonkers. It was ridiculously insane. It was also an A tier card. This one has 1 less damage, but you don't have to put it in Hunter. And these days, I don't know, is discovering a dragon better than discovering a spell? If it is, it's very, 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 like, little bit better.
These days, discovering dragon is not anymore.
Okay.
Those days, because of all the dragon
synergies, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, just in general, all the discover cards and all the add a random card to your hand and whatever have all gotten better because the core set has gotten better. And, you know, the cards that are just generally in the pool are better than what they were. So anything that does random stuff. Yeah. It's all
spells are better.
Yeah. So yeah. Like, you know, you get an assassinate, it was 5 mana, now it's 4 mana, right? That all sinks down to any kind of randomness. Because the good part before about cards that you select into your deck or whatever is that you would avoid the bad ones. But there are almost no bad cards left in the core set. So.
Yep. Okay. I think that's all we need to say about this card. It's nothing fancy. It's a mechanic that we have seen actually quite a few times. Like the body we've seen, the effect we've seen. You just put them all together. It's obviously
whereas Watch Post, a bunch of people like, you know, have, I think, questionable ratings of it. Venomous Scorpion, no one missed because it's so obvious. It's like beyond like, you know, it's like if they put a 5/6 Yeti out there for 4 mana, we're all gonna say it's great, right? It's kind of like that.
Okay, next we have a card that I kind of raised. Like, this is one I was higher on than you, so I'm very happy to introduce Southsea Scoundrel. It is an epic 4-mana 5/5 pirate. Battlecry, discover a card in your opponent's deck. They draw theirs as well. So, we have a 4-mana 5/5 that historically, if you remember stuff like Keening Banshee, it was a purely negative, quote, negative effect, right? And here we see an effect that is quite positive. Now, I will go through why I am very high on this card. I think in Arena these days, Arena in 2021, with the power level, with the swings, whenever I see a game that I lost, and I just asked myself the simple question, what did I lose to? It's just this one turn in which I didn't have the answer, or this one turn in which I wasn't able to play this minion. I wasn't able to do this one specific thing, and then I look at the rest of my deck, and I'm like, I win if that had gone a little bit better. It wasn't this sort of gradual thing. It was like, oh man, I didn't have that Nova in time. I just didn't have this ping in time. It was all of this, but for that, I would have won. That's why I'm very high on Discovers. Like, this was something that was a theme for me. I'm very high on Discovers because I think Arena is a lot more of this. It's like you didn't have it in this one turn, well, you lost. But otherwise, you were either very competitive or you won. So if you look at Southsea Scoundrel, overstated, first of all, and covers a lot of 4 mana 4/5s. When you discover a card in your opponent's deck that is super high quality, right? Because they have curated it from the draft, and you're further curating it by discovering from their deck. And if you are ahead, it doesn't matter. You just pick the crap card that benefits neither of you, right? You pick the 3 mana, like 3/4 vanilla, like you pick the spider tank, and it's like doesn't help me, doesn't help you. Certainly, we go on. I have the overstated minion, really good. But in the cases in which you really, really need a card, whenever you need a Nova, even if your opponent gets it, that Nova is exponentially more valuable for you than your opponent because they have a wide board at that point. You don't. Whenever you really need the death, it's because they have like a 9/9, and even though they have a death for your 5/5, well, you paid 4 mana, they paid like whatever mana for the probably no mana because that's how the game is nowadays. But still, so it's an overstated minion with an effect that is so positive.
I think that is what we have to narrow in on. You think this effect is not just a positive effect. I pitched this question to you. Would you rather have this effect where you discover a card and then you both get it? Or would you rather just draw a card from your deck?
And I said this one. I think this one is better because even though you give them a card, I so prioritize the opportunity for you to just find what you need. And then if I don't have it, I'm fine with just being like, okay, we both take the spider tank or we both take this, crappy card. That's fine. Like, I don't care about not drawing that extra card. I care more about the chance to save my game / my run / get that one card that I really need. And if I need that, I'm going to need that a lot more than the opponent because it's rare for whenever you super need a card, your opponent is like, oh, that's so good for me, or that's better for me than it was for the person picking, right? So I had like just looking at the games in which I lose, and if you're an infinite player, losing sucks. Like losing sucks for everyone, but losing really sucks if you're trying to go for infinite or beyond. That's why I think this ability is so good and better than just draw a card.
Okay. See, I would rather draw a card. That's why I would have this rated a B+. A B+ where, the difference between A and B+, right? Let's get back into this. An A is like a twin tyrant. A B+ is like a rat golem. Like, I still think it's a ridiculous card. That's a really freaking ridiculous ability on it. Like, I think a lot of people underestimate this ability. And they're like, oh, both people get a card. What's the big deal? It's a really good ability. I mean, then Merps really, hammered it home how good of ability it is. I don't think it's quite as good of an ability as Merps thinks. I think I'd rather actually just have the card advantage in addition to potentially an extra out, although a less secure, because you don't discover out of your deck. But I don't mind this rating. Like, I think it's a little bit high, but it's really kind of like on the line between a B+ and an A on our system. What I want to point out about this card and why it exists like this. So something like Venomous Scorpit, I don't know why it exists like that. I guess just the fact that discovering a spell is random is enough and constructed to make it not that good. Also, I guess the board matters less, so all poisonous stuff seems to be very high value in Arena and not as high and constructed. But with Southsea Scoundrel, your opponent always wants all the cards in their deck. That's why they put the cards in their deck. That's not the case in Arena, where you're both running kind of similar decks. So this card has massively extra value in this ability in Arena compared to Constructed. Not to mention the very obvious part that a 4-mana 5/5 is much better in Arena than in Constructed, right? So together, you end up with this kind of ridiculous card that I'm like, I can see why they designed it that way, because it's a downside. Like, in any Constructed game, this is a downside for when you're facing most decks. And in the Arena, it is never a downside. You have a less than 5% chance that this is a downside. And instead, usually, it's quite a significant upside.
Yeah. Worst case scenario is you just kind of punt.
Mm-hmm.
And by punt, I mean you get a 4-mana 5/5. So that's fine. Like, if that's what punting is, you getting a 4-mana 5/5, That's cool. I think we're fine punting, and that's why I think you originally had this at what, a B
No,
plus?
I had it at an A, and then I changed my mind and went down to a B plus, and then you wouldn't follow
Oh
me.
no, yeah, of course I would follow you. Like we actually had a good deal of discussion on this one where
Yeah.
I was like, "There's no way this is below an A." Like literally zero chance.
Like I think it boils down to that. Do you think this ability is better than drawing a card? And if you think this
Yep.
ability is so good that it's better than drawing a card, yeah, I'm with you. It's an A. Like if this ability was replaced with draw a card, it would be an A. Like imagine a 4-mana 5/5 that draws you a card. That's a 4-mana big ol' whelp. That's an A. Easy. No one's arguing with that, right? And you think it's even better than that, at least
Oh yeah,
somewhat. So yeah, it's clearly an A in your book. We'll see what it actually does in practice. But either way, it's just a ridiculously powerful card.
it is ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
and unlike the Scorpid and like the Watchtower, like I don't think a lot of people miss this one in terms of that. Yes, it's a powerful card, but it is kind of that powerful of a card, and that's why we spend a lot of time like kind of talking about it. Like the ability is kind of a pro ability, but also like just it's a very well designed card for the arena, honestly, except for the power level. Like they really should have just made this like a 4/4 or even a 4/5.
yeah. Anyways, on to the last card that is an A. We're talking about Primordial Protector. This is an epic card, but it is an 8-mana 6/6 elemental. Battle Cry. Draw your highest cost spell. So you actually draw it. You get it in hand. Summon a random minion with the same cost. Okay. So for 8 mana, you get a 6/6 elemental on the board. It even has a tag. You draw your highest cost spell, and then you summon a minion. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that it is your highest cost spell because spells are good. High cost spells in 2021 are bonkers.
You just
They
have to
are
have it.
insanely good.
Like
Yeah.
the only problem with this card is that you gotta put it in the right decks. Like it's an A, but there are going to be many decks where you don't want this in. Like there's going to be so many decks because especially like we went over this, right? There's no 6 mana plus cards. Like it doesn't exist in Barrens. It exists in the other expansions that are all in the arena, so you'll have plenty of chance to draft it. But make sure you do draft some like 5 mana spells or above. Because if you don't, if you just have a bunch of small spells and a bunch of minions and weapons as your higher end, it's kind of a terrible card. I mean, it's not a terrible card, but it's like not a great, amazing A tier card. So this is a card that, unlike the other ones we went over, the other cards we went over go in any deck. I don't care if you're aggro, I don't care if you're control. Put that card in your deck, you're going to do well. This is not like that. This is a card that needs a deck to go with it. Now, it's going to be quite frequent that you end up with a deck with like, I would say as long as you have 2 5-mana spells or above, you're set with this card, like in the deck. And that's going to be most of your decks. But it is definitely possible. Like we're talking like 25, maybe 35% of the time, you just won't have that deck. And in that case, don't pick this card, or at least don't pick this card highly.
Yes. So I already see some people are. Here's the thing I love about these reviews, because I can tell the dreamers from the realists. The dreamers who believe they're realists are saying, oh, this is an 8-mana 6/6 that summons like a 7 or 8 drop literally every single time. And of course, that spell is also like a 5 damage flame strike, right? Like literally every time. That's actually the average. That's the average that I'm getting. No, guys. First of all, we rate this an A. And that's the, like, you are going to have some decks where it's bonkers. You're not going to pick this card in some decks.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, if we're talking about cards that are, solid A's that you always pick, this isn't one of them. So it averages out to an A. And sometimes this is like S plus, right? In some decks, it's like crazy bonkers. This is volatile. Your average draw is going to be like around a 4 cost spell ish.
It's gonna be
around
it's probably gonna be a little higher. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
it depends on what the offering odds are, and we don't know it. It's so annoying.
Right. You can low roll on the spell. You're not casting the spell on that turn, by the way. You quote just draw it. It's not like casting it and making it free.
And by the way, when Merps is saying you may low roll on the spell, He means that you may have drawn your high cost spells before you are able to play this card. So even if you have, I don't know, people are saying Mind Control, Ultimate Infestation, whatever, right? Even if those are in your deck, and you're like, I have a decent deck for this card is bonkers, you may just happen to draw those cards before you can play it. And then your highest spell is like a 3-mana spell or something. And you're like, well, now this card was an amazing card, and now it's just kind of like a kind of card.
So look, on average, this is quite good. And if you just use it a few times, you can draft it. You'll be surprised, I think, for the dreamers out there who believe they're realists, how just very good it is and not broken it is. Okay. But you don't have to believe me. You can just play it. But if you're going by the averages, you're going to be surprised at just how many times this can be even a dead card.
Yeah.
Like just a really shitty card. So take that into consideration. I think A is generous for this card. I'm not saying it doesn't belong in A, but you guys don't have to think that it's like, oh man, how close were they to an S? It was not close.
It was not even close to an A+. It was very close to a B+.
I agree with that. I still think it's an A. I still think it's very good for what it does. But let's not be crazy here and think that it is higher, because on average, it is just a very good card.
But so remember when we were talking about the ratings, A's are like Twin Tyrants. In neutral, A's should not exist. So this may be not as good as Twin Tyrant. Like Twin Tyrant may be a solid A, and this may be a low A.
And this is a low A.
Yeah, but it still shouldn't exist. Like, for 8 mana, the swing is too high, your overall consistency is too high, there are too many decks that you can put this in. Why does this even exist? Like, in neutral, it would be fine, and it would just be a fine premium card for classes. But in neutral, I am against it existing. Now, this kind of card is designed in a way where it's a neutral card, but it's kind of a class card. Like, some classes will get a lot more use out of it than some other classes. So I'm less concerned about this card existing than I am like the Scorpion, which really should not exist. And I mean, the Scoundrel should be like a 4 or 5 or something, so I have problems with it. But also, like, I think that's a B+ and not an A, so I'm also kind of okay with it existing, even if I don't like any of these OP cards, right? Like, just because it's a B+ doesn't mean it's okay. It just means it's overpowered. Like, there's a difference between overpowered and should not exist because it is breaking the game. A cards should not exist because it is breaking the game, but cards designed this way are kind of like half class cards. Like, they're so different in each classes that I'm kind of okay with it. And Scoundrel, I don't really think of as an A card, so I'm kind of okay with it. The freaking poisonous, like, I don't know, snake, viper, whatever thing, like, there's just no reason for it, and it's too much. And obviously Watch Post S just can't exist, right? So that's where we're at. These are your top 4 cards in the Forged in the Barrens meta, in the Forged in the Barrens expansion, with Watch Post being far above the other 3. Like, we cannot emphasize how great Watch Post is compared to these other cards. And these other cards are still really, really, really good. There are other A's in class cards, but there are no A+ in class cards. So these are about as good as any of the class cards you're going to see in Barrens. And the fact that they're all neutral, and there's 3 of them, that's huge. That's super huge. Usually class cards are just kind of like better than neutral cards, you know? And in this expansion, that's not the case. The ratio, like the rate of neutral cards at 4 per, I don't know, 30-something neutral cards is actually about the same as the rate of A's appearing in class cards for this expansion. So, what it means from a practical perspective is that your games are all going to look a little samey. Because when neutral cards are really powerful, think Twin Tyrants, everybody uses them. And if everyone uses them, all your games look kind of the same. If Watch Post is that powerful, you're going to have a lot of games where you don't care if you're facing a mage or a priest, you're facing Watch Post. And same with Primordial Protector, right? It could be a druid, it could be a priest. You're facing a Primordial Protector deck. And that's kind of unfortunately how it is. So these are the not good parts of the meta. Like, this entire video is about cards that should not exist, is kind of my point.
Yep. Okay. I thought that was a good discussion. We had a good spread of units here. Once again, I don't think any of this should be super surprising. Um, Watch post might be one of the only controversial things, but yeah, I was looking at other people's ratings as well. The other three that we touched upon, the Scorpid, the Southsea Scoundrel, and this, the Primordial Protector, were
All
basically
rated high.
universally praised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're extra praising them because, as you'll see in our B tier and B plus tier, there will be a lot of very good cards too. This is a strong expansion. New core set, new expansion, new year. All the power creeps are here. But yeah, it's a very good neutral set. Good as in powerful, not good as in healthy for the meta.
Okay. I think that's it for this video. Let's take this opportunity to thank the Patreons. So big thank you to Nordoge, RV Night Train, Cheng Yin, Eric L, Aaron, Dan F, Doug A, Karova, Torjado, REG, 4P, and Brand New. Thank you so much for giving us the monies. We enjoy the monies, but you guys are able to keep this nerd sesh going on, and we appreciate that.
All right, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode where we talk about B tier. B tier, also known as where most of the cards you think are premium are actually going to be. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See ya.